COP27 and the Holocene temperature conundrum. This video will show how the Holocene temperature conundrum contradicts and invalidates the current climate models. We make the point that climate models are the foundation upon which the IPCC reports are built and upon which the Paris Agreement, net zero targets and United Nations 2030 agenda are based. To back this claim, and a trivial point perhaps, but the phrase climate model occurs 1,956 times in the IPCC 2021 report. In the preface to the report, the importance of paleoclimate information and climate models is stressed. 5 scenarios had been prepared based on a range of greenhouse gas concentrations and other factors. This set of scenarios drives climate model projections of changes in the climate system of the future. As a result, it is stated that we now have a much clearer picture of the past, present, and possible future climates. Based on this picture, the IPCC issued the warning that unless deep reductions in greenhouse gas emissions occur, in the coming decades, global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels will be exceeded during the 21st century. Some of the outcomes of this warning and previous warnings are carbon taxes that increase the cost of living, reduction in the supply of oil leading to increased cost of living, farmers being impoverished by proposal to tax cowbirds, by the forced slaughter of 140,000 head of cattle, by retirement schemes, and proposals to cut the use of fertilizers, all of which proposals increase the cost of living. And these proposals and actions are because of the climate model projections. So how does the IPCC validate these projections? The IPCC validates the climate models by cross-checking with paleoclimate information. It emphasizes that many decisions remain grounded in the experience of past climate variability. These decisions come about when scientists evaluate the performance of climate models by comparing historical climate model simulations to observations. This process is absolute best practice. It follows the scientific method outlined by Richard Feynman. We compare it, climate model simulations, to experience. Experience being observations of the paleoclimate information. If it disagrees with experience, it's wrong. That's all there is to it, and that is where the problem occurs. For the climate models do not agree with the paleoclimate information. That is, the proxy reconstructions of the Holocene, especially the late Holocene global average temperature anomalies. To understand further, we need to define the scope of the period covered by the climate models. This begins towards the end of the last glacial period, at the point of the last glacial maximum, about 22,000 years ago, and they retrospectively predict the changes in climate that take place after that time, as shown here. To follow the scientific method, these model projections need to be compared to paleoclimate information. As previously noted, the IPCC report points out the progress that has been made in gathering paleoclimate information, such as this complex study that was carried out by Marcotte et al. In 2013, where 73 individual globally distributed records were collected to reconstruct regional and global temperature anomalies for the past 11,300 years. The results are summarized. Early Holocene, that's 10,000 to 5,000 years ago, warmth is followed by approximately 0.7 degrees Celsius cooling through the middle to late Holocene. That's less than 5,000 years ago, culminating in the coolest temperature of the Holocene during the Little Ice Age, about 200 years ago. This chart displays that result. Following the last glacial maximum, global temperature increased, followed by a period of warmth, and then global average temperature fell during the late Holocene, until the Little Ice Age of 1450 to 1850. But this late Holocene fall in global temperature is not reflected in the retrospective projections of the climate models. Instead, they project an increase in global average temperature during the late Holocene. According to scientific method, the climate models are therefore wrong. That's all there is to it. We continue with our argument to see what the scientific community made of this issue. The seriousness of the issue was immediately apparent and was termed the Holocene temperature conundrum. The term was coined by this study in 2014 by Leho et al. The study explained that a recent temperature reconstruction by Marcotte of global annual temperature shows early Holocene warmth followed by a cooling trend through the middle to late Holocene, as we have seen. The study goes on to say, this global cooling is puzzling because it is opposite from the expected and simulated global warming trend due to the retreating ice sheets and rising atmospheric greenhouse gases. It explains we analyze 3 climate models, CCS M3 FAM-OUS and LOVE-CLIM, and the 3 models all simulate a robust annual mean warming of approximately 0.5 degrees Celsius throughout the Holocene. The 3 models are displayed here. They show global annual mean temperature increasing after the last glacial maximum, as expected, but not as expected. The global annual temperature continues to increase throughout the late Holocene, which, as we have seen, contradicts the Marcotte reconstruction of the late Holocene. The Leho et al. Study does not go so far as to say that the climate models are wrong, but it does draw the logical and straightforward conclusion that if the Marcotte study is correct, then it will imply major biases across the current generation of climate models. It follows up by concluding, to provide a credible benchmark for future climate models, however, the proxy reconstructions will also need to be re-examined critically. So, the issue could be resolved if in fact the Marcotte study is wrong. Now, this would in fact be an even bigger problem for the IPCC and COP27. A video will be released covering this point. For now, we continue our argument by examining the work that has been carried out to resolve the issue. The work has revolved around establishing whether the Marcotte study is incorrect or whether the climate models are incorrect. A new study was carried out to arrive at another version of the Holocene paleoclimate information. This study by Kaufman et al. Was published in 2020. The results would be compared to the Marcotte study of 2013. This new study built a comprehensive database of previously published Holocene proxy temperature time series data. The multi-proxy database includes a total of 1,319 paleotemperature records from 470 terrestrial and 209 marine sites. This is the result. Like Marcotte, global mean temperature rises after the last glacial maximum. There is a mid-Holocene warm period, similar to that of Marcotte. And again, like Marcotte, there is a gradual drop in global temperature during the late Holocene. And the Kaufman study confirms that this cooling trend occurred while the atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases were increasing, all of which indicates that the climate models are wrong, for they do not show a cooling trend during the late Holocene. But a very recent study has been carried out in an attempt to rescue the accuracy of the climate models. This study by Zheping Tian et al. Was released in February 2022, just over 6 months before COP27. The study presents the design of a new set of transient experiments for the Holocene from 11.5 thousand years ago to the pre-industrial period, 1850. The climate model used to run the simulation in this study is the NCAR CESM version 1.2.1, which was released on December 2013 and was relatively new when the simulation was started 2016. CESM is a fully coupled global Earth system model that provides state-of-the-art simulations of the Earth's past, present and future climate states. After providing more details, the study makes a concise summary. The late Holocene warming trend simulated by CESM 1.2.1 in our all-forcing simulation is consistent with that in the 3 transient simulations as shown in Leo et al. 2014, but inconsistent with the reconstructed cooling trends in Marcotte et al. And Kaufman et al. This chart shows the results of the study. Again, it shows the Holocene temperature conundrum, where from around 6,000 years ago during the late Holocene, global temperature increases, but the global temperature reconstructions consistently show a gradual cooling during the late Holocene. Our argument is thus confirmed. The latest modelling exercise confirms that climate models still do not match the very latest paleoclimate information for the late Holocene global average temperatures. And there is more. For the GMST evolution from early to mid-Holocene in the CESM 1.2.1 transient simulation is somewhat different from the warming trend, both in the reconstructions and other Holocene transient simulations. So it is different to the reconstructions and to the other 3 climate model simulations. As earlier argued, a further discrepancy has thus been identified in the early to mid-Holocene. The conclusion we come to is self-evident. There is concrete doubt and uncertainty about the predictions being made by the climate models. The very latest simulation study recommends that the discrepancies need further investigation. The common sense recommendation, therefore, is that given the doubt that exists around the accuracy of the climate model predictions, the implementation of the Paris Agreement, net zero, and the United Nations 2030 agenda should be urgently re-evaluated, and current socially disruptive measures should be paused. Our community combines the topics of globalism, nationalism, climate change, health, and the New World Order. If you would like to join our community, you can find us on locals.com/discover. Just enter the New World Order. This link will take you directly to our site.